just so you're aware, I told everyone on social media to hit the under on the Lakers regular season win total and hit the over on the Warriors, hit the over on the Bulls. And if you listen to Daddy, you would right now be basically like I think like a win away from the Bulls hitting the over already. The Bulls was like 41.5. So basically we did call it. And speaking of lines on Betterer Sportsbook, I looked last night. The Lakers were a 2.5-point favorite at home to the New Orleans Pelicans, who are without their young star, Zion Williamson, who we don't know if he actually wants to play with the team, if he communicates with anybody, any of that stuff. And what happened? To say the Lakers got their asses kicked is to say somebody got their asses kicked in the nicest possible way. They got run out of their own building. They got booed on their own home floor. And then they start getting chippy with their own fans. I have never seen, this is the Lakers. The Lakers are different than pretty much any other organization. It just is. Okay? It's at the top, it's really kind of a mom and pop shop. And yet they've been able to either sustain winning or figure out the next star to bring in time and time and time again. And LeBron came to L.A. after the worst 5-year stretch in the history of the L.A. Lakers. So it wasn't like he took over a sterling franchise that all he had to do was play and you win. He took it at rock bottom, and 2 years in, they win the title. And since they lost to Phoenix, and now this season is an abject disaster where it's become finger-pointing fest. And I love this part. This is my favorite part of the whole thing. So LeBron's supposedly mad at a writer named Bill Oram, covers the team. He was on with us last week. He was just on with Cowherd, right? And he's upset because Bill Oram wrote that it's the beginnings of a war between Rich Paul and Rob Pelinka. Rich Paul is the agent and friend of LeBron James, who represents half the team, and Rob Pelinka is the GM of said team. And of course, the Lakers and Rich Paul and Clutch Sports just put out a statement. We got no issues with them. They got no issues with us. Then why'd you have a 2-hour meeting? After the story came out. Because everyone who has no issues with one another has to have a 2-hour meeting. Because if you really have no issues, you know what you do? Hey, we good? Yeah, we're good. Okay. That's how it works. Right? Like when Bayer gets on to me because I ask him, I interrupt him when he's actually working, and then we talk during the break. I'm like, are you good? I'm good. That's it. But when you really have a problem, you know what you have to do? You have to sit down, hash it out, 2-hour meeting. This thing is a dumpster fire. Holy criminy. So here's LeBron James was booed last night. And I have an opinion on LeBron and the Lakers I'm going to share with you. And I think it's going to tell you all you need to know. But let me first here's LeBron on whether or not his knee injury impacted the number of turnovers he had.
I played pretty bad tonight. I had some horrible turnovers.
7 turnovers?
Yeah. Probably about 4 of them was pretty bad. The other 3 was just wrong, bad connections. But I could have been a lot better for sure. But no, I don't think it's affecting my play.
Okay. I'm not like that, offering no excuses. I didn't play well tonight. LeBron said this about the next month of games.
And now it's about how we can get better today. And we got a tough stretch with Dallas. Clippers again Thursday, then Golden State on Saturday. So, and we still got 10 road games this month or March. So it don't get easier for us.
Here's Russell Westbrook in exchange with Bill Oram after the game regarding the boos.
Does the booing, pretty loud, especially at the end of the game, does that stick with you? Like, how do you respond to that? You don't take that home with you?
Take it home for what?
I don't think about it.
Take it home, man. Well, I got 3 beautiful kids at my house. My wife, I ain't taking it home. They can take their boo and they can take their ass home. I ain't worried about that. Doesn't bother me none, man. That's a part, and I'm not really worried about it at all. And that's how I deal with it. So I'm not, it roll off my shoulder. I go home. But as for our team, I have to think it's something that you got to deal with and kind of move forward. So,
Look, I love Russ's approach to it. I thought it was a fair question. I'm not sure he took it in the context in which in the way in which it was desired. Like, you know, he got a little defense, like, take it home. What do you mean? The idea is, like, how do you process that? Like, you came home to Los Angeles. You grew up in L.A. You grew up dreaming of being Kobe Bryant and winning titles. You're a Jordan brand guy. You come back, you do all these good works off the court. You played at UCLA. You've never offered a negative word about Los Angeles, and you're struggling, and they're booing you. Right? And by the way, I've never really understood the booing from home fans, but it is part of the arrogance of Laker fans. They expect more. And I don't think it's wrong to expect greater effort than they gave last night. I think that's really what the booing is more about. There's just some things that are just terrible effort and just bad play. Like, you miss shots. Gonna happen. Guy makes a shot with a hand in your face. Gonna happen. But, man, they looked like a disconnected mess. And do you know who LeBron James has to blame for this? LeBron James. And you could sit here and go like, well, you're a LeBron James hater. No, I'm not. No, I'm not. The way sports media has turned and changed, it's one or the other. And the truth with most anything is in the middle. It just is. LeBron James is a great, great player. Okay? Great player. An all-time great player. I don't believe he's the greatest player ever. I believe he's right there in any discussion with the all-time greats. And I could nitpick and try and find ways to, but the point is, I'm not going to dispute that in the 100 years or 75 years of the NBA, with all the guys that have played, he has been consistently one of the 20 best players. Yes, I said 20 best. Right now, he's one of the 20 best. He's not one of the 5 best. Look, you're wrong. You're a hater. Like, really? He's better than Jokic? He's better than Giannis? Hey, he's better than those guys right now? No. He's better than Embiid? No. Was he better than Durant when Durant was healthy? No. I would say he's not better. Luka didn't play well last night in a comeback win, but he's not better than Luka at this point in time in his career. Right? Like, we go through and we go like, he's not better than Steph, and even when Steph doesn't shoot the ball well, he's not better, but he's still at 17 years, or 19 years in the league, he's still one of, on any night, he can be the best player in the league, and most nights, he's one of the 10 or 15, he's one of the 20 best players in the league. Without getting into the argument of, is he 4 or is he 7? That's stupid. That's Mount Rushmore Sports Radio. Let's do the rankings of LeBron James in the NBA. I'm going to open up phone lines, 888-SAY. You know, like, no, I'm not going to do that. So he's an all-time great player. But LeBron James wanted to come to L.A. L.A. was his only destination. That was where he wanted to go. He wanted to raise his family. He wants to do movies. He wanted to expand his brand. Okay? This is honestly no different than the Chargers. It's no different. It's really hard for a fan to grow up or to spend 15 years and you're the enemy. You're the rival. And oh yeah, by the way, the guy that preceded you, who tragically passed away, before we really got to experience the next step in Kobe's life, where Kobe seemed to finally have life figured out. Kobe Bryant was not perfect. I didn't even love the way Kobe played. But Kobe is the opposite of LeBron in that, okay, Kobe never left. He may have wanted to leave once upon a time, but he never left. Hey, and I understand that LeBron would say, if you ask LeBron, like, dude, he was selfish. I'm unselfish. Why don't people like me more? But what the infatuation with Kobe was over his focus, his will, how he purported himself late in his career in terms of his work ethic. But more than anything, you're seen as a mercenary. He's seen as a Laker. You play for the Lakers. He is a Laker. You play for the Lakers. Magic Johnson is a Laker. Right? That's really where we are. And so it's already difficult for Laker fans to embrace a guy who they used to root against. Now we got to root for him. Now he's not performing. And Russell Westbrook is his hand-picked teammate. Whatever you want to say about Anthony Davis, who, when he's healthy, is a great player, wasn't playing well before he was hurt this time, but Anthony Davis was his hand-picked teammate. You picked these guys. Right? This is going to a restaurant and saying, no. Here's how I want it made. I want the steak medium rare. I want the asparagus spears. I want the salad. I want pepper on the salad. I want extra pepper on the salad. They come and put the pepper. I want a little bit more. I want a drink. I want just, and then you eat the meal and you're like, that's not nearly as, I didn't like the meal. Who do you have to blame? Who do you have to blame? And this, again, is really not and as much as LeBron is to blame for it, he's not solely to blame for it. It's not all on him, right? Westbrook's been a mess. Anthony Davis can't stay healthy. I don't think Frank Vogel has done the best job. On the other hand, he's dealt a bad hand of cards. Rob Pelinka screwed this thing up when they didn't get Kyle Lowry last year, and then he let Caruso walk. Some of the blood is on the hands of Pelinka, and then frankly, Jeannie should have seen all of this coming. This is the way it goes with LeBron. It goes well until it doesn't, and when it doesn't, everyone else is to blame except for LeBron, and then he leaves town. Right? That's what happens. All the credit, none of the blame, leaves town. Don't believe me? Why did he leave Cleveland? Well, they couldn't put a good enough team around him. So he left. Went to Miami, where they won 4 NBA finals, but at the end wasn't home. It seemed to have topped out. They seemed to have worn out. And the reason they didn't win the title in the last year was Bosh wasn't good enough. Wade was good. Never a mention of LeBron. He goes to Cleveland. Right? They come back. They win. It's miraculous. They celebrate. And then Golden State gets better than them. Golden State beats them like a drum. And instead of recruiting better players and building it in his hometown or home area, he leaves. Why? It's their fault. They couldn't put the right team around me. I didn't have a good enough team. Now he goes to Lakers. It's the same thing. Look, we as a country, we struggle with accountability. Nobody likes being told it's their fault, but it's our fault. Right? It just is. And he's not solely to blame, but this is how it's going to go with LeBron. He's going to leave. Hey, all that stuff you heard is more true than untrue. He does want to play with Bronny. It did show everybody in that locker room that his focus is on his points and because he doesn't think this team is any good. And when your best player is worried about his standing all time in scoring and what his future looks like a year and a half from now, you think they're going to buy into fixing it now? There wasn't one discussion. There wasn't one article that came out about the All-Star break where LeBron James like, hey, my sole focus is to fix this Laker team and get this Lakers team back to the NBA Finals where we can win another championship. Did you ever hear that once? No. And so when your best player, when the guy who handpicks his teammates is focused on the future, is focused on scoring, is focused on legacy, focused on, hey man, never close the door at Cleveland. And then he returns to a locker room where Russell Westbrook, who he handpicked, and he's already out on Westbrook. Think about this. Think about what it feels like to be Russell Westbrook. It's one thing for fans to boo. These guys don't care about the fans. They don't really respect the fans. They think they're idiots. And most of them, frankly, are. Okay? But when your teammate, when a guy who's viewed as, if not the greatest, one of the greatest players in the NBA, recruits you to come to his team in your hometown, and then 3 or 4 months in, behind your back, goes to the GM and says, hey, let's trade him for John Wall, who is so well regarded in Houston that they pay him $40+ million to not play. We would rather have John Wall, who hasn't played a minute in the NBA this year, than you. How do you think Russell Westbrook's going to feel about the team? How do you think all those other guys who know they are just assets to be moved to until LeBron James finds who he thinks is worthy of playing with? All of these things come back on LeBron. They just do. It doesn't make him a horrible human being. It doesn't make him the worst teammate ever. It just makes him accountable for what has happened to a Laker team that 2 years ago won an NBA title and nobody seems to care. And LeBron's going to leave town as a guy who came in, won a championship, but was on the Lakers, not really a Laker. That's how it's going to go.